Welcome, everyone, to What the Force. I'm Marie-Claire Gould, your host, and this is Bad Batch Report, where we're covering every episode of The Bad Batch. And joining me for all of these episodes is my husband, Kyle Gould. Welcome.
Yep. Welcome, everyone, to the latest episode of Rotten Sequence.
What?
It's a Bad Batch.
Oh. Yeah, they're my special little guys.
They are.
Plus Omega and Thatcher, who are my special little girls.
It's a whole family now.
It is. They have all of the people, including the overly worried uncle.
And so here we are to discuss a double episode.
Yep.
Infiltration Extradition. Is that what was the second one called?
It's fun. Extraction. So it's like in and out, and plays into some of the themes that I have caught for these two episodes.
I'm glad for that. I thought they were dumb names. So sorry, everyone. As a podcaster who has to name episodes, I know the struggle and the pressure and the weight of this. At this point, you're just literally trying to find something to name this episode, because episode 6 and 7, no one is going to let that fly.
Yes, and this was episode 6 and 7 of season 3.
Don't you all remember? Does everybody remember, if you're listening? Do you remember the first season where they didn't have names? They didn't have names. They were all just numbered.
They were just numbered, yeah.
And then they were backdrafted the naming, where the first 5 episodes on IMDb only had the numbers, and there was only the number.
They didn't have the nameplates, like where they
no nameplate.
Oh,
it was
weird.
Just numbers for the first 5, and then they literally retconned it and put the names of the episodes in.
That's interesting.
So I'm thankful for the names, and then at the same time, I'm judging the names. I can never be pleased. I'm just unpleasable.
There's some cool things happening overall with some themes in these two episodes: the in and out, the infiltration, and of course the extraction.
See, now I wouldn't have called extraction. I would have called it descent.
Yeah, because there was the big tie-in to the Spire, which, like, the Spire itself sort of feels like a Crucible like situation, where they're going and journeying in and spiraling down, and also the bad guys are spiraling up towards them. There's some really interesting things happening with that.
Everybody goes down that episode.
Yeah.
But the whole entire episode of Extraction, not to put the cart before the horse and discuss episode 2, but thematically they go down 3 or 4 times in that episode. Yeah. Whether it's down a waterfall, journeying or
down
the ship
and
is
down
going
and down. Yeah, and usually when you experience that sort of downward travel in a story, you are getting closer and closer to
death,
yes, and that does happen, which is really, really interesting. But a death of sorts, a symbolic death. But usually it is, symbolic of you going closer and closer into your subconscious, down, until you get to some sort of version of being worn away in the truth, right? And we do get that through this 2-episode arc, and then they return to life elsewhere, or the Bad Batch does.
This really sounds like he's powering down because a new update has been uploaded into his OS, and then he has to power down and then boot back up into the new version of himself.
I mean, that's basically the hero's journey. Every time you have to reboot your computer, you experience a little mini hero's journey.
Did my phone have a mandatory update today? Maybe it did.
Maybe this is all tied together. I just don't know what I'm going to do when Windows says that they no longer have to power down their computer to initiate all their updates. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to survive without that symbolic life cycle of my computer. Anyways,
let's roll it back.
No, I have a few more thematic things I just want to briefly mention.
Sure. Is this about episode 2 or a holistic?
It's holistic.
Okay.
Yeah. So there's a really important motif that's happening, and it's called out more. It's throughout the entire show, but it's called out quite heavily in this one, with Omega being hunted by a predator, and it has deep meaning for characters that are considered to be in a maiden archetype or a young adult archetype. It has to do with and we see this most heavily with in Star Wars with Rey in TFA. The other point when we see it heavily. We also see it a little bit with Luke being hunted by Darth Vader, but primarily it is the idea that is drawn forth and called out by Clarissa Piccola Estes in Bluebeard, where in that phase of young adulthood, there is a wild nature to the world that people don't understand. They're always being protected by others. And there's predators out there that want to consume the young person, or the psyche wants to consume the person. And so once a person has actually gotten past and fought against the predator, they can actually become a protector themselves. And sometimes in rare circumstances, they end up saving the predator from themselves. And I find that really, really interesting. And I'll call out kind of some of the points where it's really, really called out. The other sort of motif that we see is the assassin clones that have been
shadow clones.
They're shadows. They're shadow versions of the clones, and that plays heavily into how
their designations. Did you know about their designations? CX1 and CX2 is what they're called.
I mean, I feel like that was just laziness to call them that, so they didn't.
Well, they're never referenced in the show.
No,
itself,
they're never.
So this is the kind of the hashtag number call sign that they've been given and granted into the Fantopia or whatever it's called now.
Of the world. But the shadow version of it, they really do show themselves to be shadow versions of people left behind, or even shadow versions of the characters on the screen. Like we get the secondary assassin, CX2, I guess is kind of the designation. The second assassin really looks like a crosshair-like person because of the sniper rifle and the way the helmet with the little eye.
I want to talk about those helmets for a bit, because why do they look like balaclavas with chalk drawing on them?
I don't know.
I never, as soon as you see them, I do not get a sense or semblance of like, ooh, danger.
Yeah, no, they don't feel super threatening. They just feel otherly.
Yeah.
And I think that might be purposeful with that shadow idea. Like they're not supposed to look like clones.
Yeah. But
they kind of look like clone trooper armor, or maybe stormtrooper armor that's been like.
They definitely just armor.
Like it's just yeah, it's an interesting choice. And so they're shadow versions of the clones, and we kind of see that throughout the episodes as well. And then a little bit on what Omega represents. So she is, of course, a divine child. We have a lot of divine children in Star Wars. It's one of the favorite motifs. We have Grogu. We have Anakin. They represent a change in the universe. That is what divine children sort of thematically represent. And they're like a herald of a transformational situation, but on a galactic scale. That is what they represent in Star Wars.
They're the latest version of the iPhone.
But it also kind of shows that a rebirth will be on the horizon. And specifically because Omega is a clone and of the Jango Fett line, she represents the rebirth for all of the clones themselves. And we see that quite heavily throughout the episode. And I'll try to call it out when we see that. So
do you mean like, is it rebirth or is it the continuance? Is it the continuance of
transformation?
The line? Yeah.
Transformation. So rebirth always means that you've taken in all of the shadow aspects of yourself and all the good and all the bad, and that you are born a new, hopefully more whole, better person.
I don't get that so much from Omega or from Grogu. I definitely get that from Anakin because we have that.
They're a herald,
but
like a herald of the transformation to come. They are the symbol that the transformation is coming. They're also the outcome of an alchemical union. Yeah. So like Jason Solo is a divine child. They don't always have to be like magical children. Sometimes they're just the child that the hero is protecting. That's sometimes how they play out. Elora Danan is a really great example of a divine child. Yeah. So
the golden child.
Golden Child from the Eddie Murphy movie.
Yeah, Eddie Murphy.
Exactly.
Gotta keep that boy alive.
Good. Yeah, exactly. They represent that, and also that there's going to be a change in the society at large. They represent the new life of the society that out of the darkness.
We have to protect the children because they will. If we don't, there'll be nothing in the future. We have to.
And this ties heavily to like the House of Atreus curse that the clones are under. And that's also called out several times during this episode.
Paul Atreides' sister.
Yeah, Alia is also a divine child. Yeah. It's easy to recognize when you see it. The young girl in Last of Us, I don't know her name because I've only watched part of the first episode.
Who is immune.
Yeah, that's like the non-magical version of this. She's immune to the mushroom people.
It's interesting to put Omega in that category because she's older than the clones. Like she is biologically,
yeah, but like symbolically she looks young,
chronologically
she's small and stuff like that, and it doesn't like Grogu's older than everybody around him.
Exactly.
So
it's like, well, they're special and they're unique because they've been around for a long time already. So are they a child?
They are because of how they symbolically appear on screen.
They're just the oldest Goonie in the Goonie squad.
They're just the oldest Goonie. No, I mean, yeah.
The Corey Hart, is that who was Corey Feldman? Who was the leader of the Goonies? Oh, I can't recall off the top of my head.
I think it was Corey Feldman, yeah. But it's an important symbol because Star Wars freaking loves it. They love the divine child concept.
Yeah. Oh, so Ke Huy Quan is the tech of the Goonies.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
Okay.
So I'm cool with digging into the episode. I just wanted to call out those things that are coming out more apparently in this 2-episode arc.
Yeah. So 2 episodes released on the exact same day. That's not normal for the course of the show.
It happened a lot last season, actually.
It did happen somewhat, but in the first season it happened only once as well. So this is really we've reached the halfway point. All of the characters. So when you've reached the halfway point at any point, there should be no introduction of new characters.
Right.
And since we are now on the sharp descent towards the end of this story, we should know all of the players that are involved so that we can get the climax and the resolution accordingly. And then any denouement that they wish to fulfill, everyone's happy feelings of joy and bliss. That's what denouements are for.
Right.
So that we have now reached the halfway point. All of the characters are introduced, and this is relevant and important. And why they've connected these two episodes together is to give us a genuine introduction to CX2.
Yes.
So that's why it's called Infiltration and Extraction, because I think that both of those are relevant to CX2's perspective.
Yes.
Okay. So, and this is also telling as well. Directed by Stuart Lee, this is his 15th episode of directing The Bad Batch, his 38th directorial episode overall across Clone Wars and Rebels. And this one is written by Brad Rao. Brad Rao is the overarching supervising director, right? Him and Jennifer Corbett are the 2 individuals who are basically showrunners for this entire project.
Yep.
This is written by Brad Rao. How many other episodes has Brad Rao ever written?
Not many.
Has Brad Rao ever written anything before this?
I don't think he has.
Not even just Bad Batch. Nothing.
Nothing?
There are no credits for Brad Rao as a writer at all in IMDb.
So he must have been very, very passionate about this specific
Who is Brad Rao's favorite character? Who is Jennifer Corbett's favorite character?
Is it Tech?
They told us that, remember? Their favorite character is Tech.
Althea.
Yes.
Here. Okay. So, I mean, okay. Like, are we starting the Tech conspiracy?
We'll get to that in a second.
I know. I just like there's so much symbolic evidence that it's him.
The Techspiracy is amongst us.
The Techspiracy is going hard.
I have a list of reasons why Tech is CX2.
I mean, I just have symbolic reasons. So
mine are all practical ones, but we'll
mine
get to
are
that.
not unpractical.
and it is
story related ones.
It's directly driven off of the fact that these 2 episodes are written and directed by these people, because who writes episode 7? Who wrote Extraction? Well, it's directed by Saul Ruiz, who's directed a ton as well. So yet again, another individual who has directed a whole bunch of episodes, person they trust and they know. But this one is written by Jennifer Corbett and Matt Miknovitz. Miknovitz is the story group head, and Jennifer Corbett's the other half of the story team.
Yeah.
The directorial.
Matt is like the story editor / writing
He's
team.
kind of the consistency individual. He's the head of the group. I just imagine that all of the writers are gathered into a room. They hash out what the plot for the whole season is going to be. Individual episodes are going to be assigned. Matt's going to be the one that's going to receive that script and give sign off on it and ask, oh no, you need to include these 2 other characters into it.
Right. Yeah.
How important are these episodes if these are the people writing them?
Pretty important, and yet they don't seem super important on surface unless tech. How do you pronounce that?
The Techspiracy?
Techspiracy is true. Because because I was like, the only way these 2 episodes which have been given a lot of gravitas. Like the episodes themselves are very like, there's a lot of things happening, and there's a lot of like very emotional moments. And the only way they make sense is if CX2, we've nicknamed CX2 via the internet, is tech. Yeah.
Also, this guy really loves his backpack. The other assassin did not wear a backpack.
He didn't wear a backpack, This one. And he's always touching his like tech.
Well, I'll get to that as well in a second. This CX2.
Yeah.
He makes a point of always having a backpack on. And Tech
always had his backpack.
As I told in the very first season, I went off on this guy always having a backpack. He always had a backpack. Nobody else was carrying a backpack. Tech always had a backpack.
Conspiracy.
So not only that, but the lights, the buttons that are on the backpack, same position, same space, and same place as Tech's backpack.
Yeah.
Not the same structural shape. I mean, it's still a backpack, so it's only going to do so much. But he still carries around a backpack at all times. Yeah. He's always wearing this backpack. Mm-hmm. That tells me that there's something going on here just from that. And then the problem with the bicep. So he's having trouble with his arm, right? He gets blown up in the first episode in Infiltration here. He gets blown up from his own thermal detonator. And his arm's not working very well. And at one point he reaches over and pushes a bunch of buttons really quickly with his fingers. I'm showing this to Marie Claire just so you can all tell that I'm actually miming out what CX2 did. And there's an electronic spark that happens, and then his arm freely moves again, and his arm's good to go.
It's totally Winter Soldier situation. Exactly. I called it Winter Soldiering. And like just like the conditioning of the clones in general, I was like, oh yeah, they're totally Winter Soldier.
Absolutely.
I feel like I want to wait until we're closer to like that part in the story, but maybe I'll just bring up a little bit of the thematic things that I kind of noticed that indicate that this could be tech. So you kind of pointed out like the actual physical things, but symbolically, it's like he's a mix of Crosshair, Tech himself, and Hunter. And I haven't seen so much that he's like Wrecker, except that he likes to blow up stuff. But most importantly, he is so frigging cold and focused on the objective and doesn't really, it's exactly like how Tech is in that like the calculations of making the hard decision is barely perceptible because he's just like, well, the most rational thing to do is to blow everybody up to stop blow up the ship's engine to stop them from escaping.
Yeah, like, like he's not telling you that he calculated the repercussions of what he did. And when he shot out the nacelles, he knew the ship would crash, but that it was not high enough to kill anyone.
Yeah.
He doesn't tell people that.
He doesn't tell them, but
Old Tech would have taken the time to explain those components.
Yeah, he's just like, no, this was the right thing to do.
And what he says is still perfectly tech and within the context of the way text speaks as well.
Yeah, I was wondering if the cadence was really close.
The line is, I prevented the target's escape.
Yeah, which absolutely sounds like him.
And it's not, I mean, it almost feels soulless, but it's not. It's emotionless.
Yeah.
And tech always looked at things from an emotionless perspective. We used to relate them, Crosshair and Tech, together because they were both so emotionless. But now we begin to realize, no, Crosshair was coming from a perspective of emotion at all times.
Right.
He was that other degree.
He was like the Hulk. Like, he's like, I'm angry all the time.
I'm always angry.
I'm always angry.
Right?
Whereas Tech was like, yeah, then the emotions are there, but they're like so deep below
both
the
of them were
surface.
ends justify the means characters.
Yeah, and the coldness comes off as Crosshair ish,
right?
But it's very Tech in the analytical decision,
analytical, logical. See this progress through to the proper end result without emotion. Crosshair pursues things from a perspective of emotion. It's emotion which drives him forward in all manners. Emotion is what allows him to carry through.
Yeah.
He's so emotional, but he knows this is the end result, and he gets there through emotion, not through logic.
And I feel like they did a really good job in second season showing that about Crosshair,
absolutely.
like how much he lost his mind and like his emotions. He really went overboard, especially chasing the batch and everything like that. So this is really great. Techspiracy. Yeah, we're here.
But what's interesting is that while this episode, and we're talking about 40 minutes of TV, while this episode is sincerely trying to give you all of the titillating bits of foreshadowing to make every single person who's watching this show go, could that be Tech?
Yeah.
They want you to think that. They want you to get to that conclusion because they want you to feel good when they reveal it to you.
I know. They're very good at that.
So while they do that, they also further the redemption arc and story for Crosshair as he descends down to a physical, literal death at the end of the second episode in order to be rebirthed.
We're jumping ahead of all the cool stuff.
So let's, right off the get-go, let's talk about Chuchi and Sing.
Senator Chuchi, yeah. I love Chuchi. I'm so happy she's back. Although I don't quite get the point of this conversation.
I didn't either. What it does is if you go back and you watch season 1 episode 10, I want to say, I don't recall exactly, Rampart's going nuts and he's pushing people around and Sing has to make a decision about his people.
Right.
I got to tell you something, and I think the listeners won't realize this either. That's not the same voice actor from season 1.
Oh, for Senator Singh?
For Senator Singh.
Oh, wow.
It's not. It was Alexander Siddiq. It was Dr. Bashir.
Right.
In episode 1, in season 1. In this season, it's not. It's voiced by Danny Jacobs.
Okay.
Who is just a newcomer, he's a prolific voice actor, but again, not the voice actor brought through again. Right. It makes me wonder if maybe they had more for Alexander Siddiq, but then they decided to go a different direction on this character. And when they're bringing him back now, it was 7 lines?
Yeah.
Is that are you going to be able to bring him in for that?
It was more probably just that, like, this was a good way to bring in some of the politics of the, rebellion in some ways, because it felt like that's what it was being set up for. They had tea. It was nice. And then they both were attempted to be assassinated by CX1.
GS8 is the same voice actor from season 1.
Interesting.
I just want her and C-3PO to meet. I mean, that's all I really want at this
That
point.
would be great.
GS8 and C-3PO meeting each other and just apologizing profusely the entire time. Same voice actor, as well as Chuchi, same voice actor as season 1.
She's been the same voice actress since the Clone Wars.
Yes. Yeah. Not a young person.
No, but she has a very nice voice.
Jennifer Hale is her name.
Oh, it's Jennifer Hale.
She's incredible.
She's also played other voices.
Oh, I don't know about so much in Star Wars, but I'm excited about one thing, though, because she plays Jean Grey in X-Men 97.
Oh, which is coming out really soon.
So excited about that.
I mean, that's my X-Men childhood right there.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm excited.
Yeah, I love that show so much. It's just that at this stage of my life, it puts me to sleep. So I'm really hoping X-Men 97 won't put me to sleep in the same way that most animated cartoons put me to sleep nowadays. Thank you to my children. And now I have a Pavlovian response to cartoons.
Saturday morning cartoons put you to sleep all the time. Yeah.
We would stay up so late on a Friday night. And then the kids would be up at 6:30 in the morning on a Saturday, and you would not move a lot of the time. And so I would go downstairs with the kids, and I would put on a show, and I would fall asleep to the show, and it would just cycle through the show. So I would literally have cartoons playing in the background, and it just puts me right to sleep.
I think you recently tried to watch Iron Man Armored Adventures.
Yes.
And it instantly put you to sleep.
Yeah, 30 seconds is all I lasted.
This is what you need to know if you're having trouble sleeping at night.
It's 3 o'clock in the morning, turn on Iron Man Armored Adventures.
You'll be like, ugh.
Which I love. It's such a good show.
It's a great
and there's
show.
So many things happening in it, and it's so active. And yet at the same time, that cell shading, I'm asleep. I'm not finding that for Bad Batch. It's not putting me out. And I think it has to do with the texture of this particular show and the way it's drawn and put together.
It was 3D animated, so yeah. It like Rex has been helping Chuchi with setting up these things and certainly trying to gain more support. It definitely feels like the start of a part of the rebellion, right?
Yeah.
But capturing the assassin, which was a really cool scene and shows how capable Rex is. Rex is still one of my favorite characters. I still have his Lego figure on my gym bag. I love him so much.
Yeah.
He's the best.
I didn't realize that his markings are on his gloves as well.
Yeah.
That all his kill count, you always saw it on the helmet. The helmet was the most visible spot, but it runs down his arms. It's on his gloves. It's on his legs. He's got all of his confirmed kills are all over his entire armor.
And you have to think about how Anakin and Ahsoka and Rex, like they were like a trio.
Yeah.
And Rex and Ahsoka have all the good pieces of Anakin.
Yeah. And I'm just waiting in eager anticipation for Rex to grow some facial hair and to grow out
chubby,
whatever the remains of the top of his hair is as well. Because I just remember big beard, curly haired guy from Rebels, right?
Yeah, he has a big beard, and also it looks like he has picked up drinking a lot of beer while fishing on his little like fishing trawler in the desert. So
he's gonna lose so many close friends between now and then, and he's lost friends already.
I know, but he kind of retires until the rebels pull him back in the ghost team. I know
bad things are about to happen.
I know.
We literally watch things happen right now. And maybe it's a good point to talk about death count for this episode. Because this is relevant. It's not, for the most part, it's not nameless, faceless people that are dying.
Yeah.
If a person dies in an episode right now, especially if they're a clone, they have a name. We will not forget them.
Oh, man.
They are our brothers. And even though they are traitors, we will collect the fallen dead and we will honor their existence.
Yeah.
So it's Fireball who dies in this episode with a big flamethrower attempt while trying to save everyone else, has the thermal detonator explode and rocks fall.
Oh man.
Fireball dies. And that is the only death of this episode.
Wow. Rex finds the data puck, which has of course, hey, go after Senator Singh.
Yep.
But also has, and if you happen to find this kid wandering around the galaxy, pick up this kid as well, but do not kill this kid. This kid is very important.
Yeah.
They have an M count situation happening.
It's very interesting that this data puck has multiple targets on it, because when we've seen these things, which are also known as hollow pucks from another thing, and then bounty pucks.
Yeah, Mandalorian. The Mandalorian had
bounty pucks.
Bounty pucks.
Literally, accepting of the bounty puck in the Mandalorian is what triggers the contract.
Yeah,
just taking the puck.
And then you were given their chain code, which means that you could hunt. Like you find everybody, which is very scary technology to me. And there's a little bit of dystopianness about like where the Mandalorian gets to. I don't want to talk about it right now, but it there's
is
some
interesting
things
to talk about in the regards that they know where this clone is, even though we can't test for whatever tracker that is in this shadow clone, and they removed the thing from the clone's tooth.
Yeah, it was like the assassin like death cyanide pill. There,
I didn't think it was that. Honestly,
but it was the equivalent of that.
I thought it was a tracker in their tooth.
Well, they said that none of them ever survive. I assume there was a suicide pill in the tooth.
I don't know.
But there was a homing beacon as well. And again, this is a very Winter Soldier-esque program. And so he also comes off very Crosshair like as well. But Crosshair is, on the good side.
At least we didn't have to see Hemlock and his stupid eyebrows this episode.
Or his one glove. We have some excellent Batcher and Wrecker moments, which is all I ever wanted. I wanted them. I wanted scritches. I wanted scritch count. I think it was like 3 or 4 times that he gets scritches by Wrecker, and I was super happy about all of them.
You doing like a Batcher scritch count?
I didn't really count. I only enjoy with all the joy in my heart when Batcher gets scritches by people.
So yet another reason why CX2 it could very well be tech is the very moment this first Shadow Assassin clone is captured, helmet off.
Yeah.
Like that immediately.
Yeah.
We know who this is. This is black-haired clone trooper guy who won't give his number or designation.
Doesn't have his designation been scripted off.
Right?
Yeah.
And yet he still retains enough personality to see Crosshair, glare at Crosshair, and call him brother.
Yeah.
So it's intentional that he's not giving over any of his historical name and knowledge and information.
Yep.
It's deliberate.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Another reason. Echo brings Hunter, Crosshair, Omega, Wrecker, and Batcher to Rex. Which
is like, why?
Like, why did he have to be an Uber?
Also, why are you taking Omega to the assassin clone?
I still don't understand that, because it's like, hey, we know they want you to kill you and find you, or that we know they want to find you and capture you. So we're going to take you to them.
Yeah. Because
guys,
tension.
Guys, I mean, they gave her a new gun, which I did love. Echo gave her the new crossbow, which was like a leveling up of her old bow and arrow, electro bow and arrow thing, and it's now green compared to the purple before, which I also love so much.
It has to be green because everything else is purple at this point on this planet.
Right.
It's a purple sunset that leads to night. I want to talk about the thematic elements of that in a moment, but they also land at the top of a huge promontory, which initially just gives you this beautiful vista. Like, wow, they're in this beautiful, they've got it. They can see wherever they need to go. They have great vision of everything around them.
I love the spire so much.
Which tells us that they can't see what's coming next, right? We're getting that juxtaposition here of something that they don't see coming, but they should be able to see all around them.
Yeah. And we get the conflict from Hauser and Crosshair, which is that he led to a bunch of the clones' death. This was late mid-second season or first season.
Yep. I want to talk about Hauser too. That there's a whole story there with Hauser. What a great story this is with Hauser.
But they bring them there primarily because they actually just don't fully trust that Crosshair has given them everything.
Right?
And
it's so interesting how they initially are like, Crosshair's the one who has to tell us all the stuff because he's flew the ship out of Tantus and he brought that kid with him. And then they realize, oh yeah.
No, the kid brought him with the...
Crosshair knows nothing.
Yeah.
He knows nothing at all. It's not like he's being deliberately truant and not truculent and whatnot. He's not. He knows nothing. This kid, though, maybe you should ask her some questions because she knows a lot.
Yeah.
But the way Rex asks her is so intense.
Yeah.
It's just the most intense moment of this episode.
I know.
And I don't understand why that line is delivered that way. Because if I was the one being asked, I'd be like, slow your horses, bro. Who do you think? You may call yourself Captain Rex still, but like, we have shit going on too.
Yeah. Yeah. Didn't you ask, like, isn't he a general now or something?
Yeah.
Like all like this, I love that my echo base theory has infected your brain, though.
Well, it's because the show is giving it to us that.
Oh, absolutely.
Why is it that Echo has to like ferry them around and then leave to go pick up? He's leaving to go pick up somebody. Who was he going to go get? He was going
to go get a contact. Yeah.
Gunter or something?
Yeah, something.
Like, I have to take your ship and go do this other thing. I'll be back in a moment or so. You know, just grab lunch at Arby's or something. He leaves, but not before he gives Omega.
Yeah. It definitely feels like they're setting up Echo as like a pillar of the future rebellion. And that's why I'm like, Echo Base. Like but it also means like he might die or something. I don't know if it
necessarily means he's going to die. I think what it means is that he has more skin in the game and more motivation to bring down the Empire than anyone else.
We've talked about that, how like he's the driving factor behind Rex caring about things, and only like him and Omega from like a compassionate sense for the clones, but him from like sort of a revenge sense. Like both him and Omega are like the driving factors of the clone-led rebellion.
Yeah.
Which is so interesting. Yeah.
So Hauser is a great element in this entire 2-part story because he's the only one out here pushing plot. He's pushing plot as hard as he can to confront Crosshair for what Crosshair did to his fellow friends and brothers on Ryloth. And he's the one that pushes Crosshair to have yet a further come to Jesus moment and recognize the change that is upon him. And then it's what I love about it, Marie Claire, is it's Hauser that sees the change. Yeah,
I love that in the second episode. And that has a lot of meaning, but I'll get to that when we kind of get to the second episode, because I think it's framed up really well through several moments in that episode.
Yeah. How much did CX2's ship landing on the planet, because that's when we're at right now in the storyline, CX2's ship comes in and lands. Did it remind you of Maul arriving on Tatooine?
Yeah, a lot.
Even the sound effect was similar.
Yeah. Yeah. It's supposed to give you that vibe of like, oh no, something big is scary is coming. And so like the second clone assassin, CX2, arrives to kill the first clone.
Right.
Really, like that's literally his job, is like, no, you can't let him live. He should have committed suicide, just like, right? Like that's like literally the suicide pill didn't work. That's why I was like, I'm pretty sure it is. The electro capsule, whatever.
And like we got Data Puck and then electro capsule all in this episode. Like the people who are creating the wikis for Star Wars are literally just, yet another new page.
Yeah, I know. There's a lot of things that are being dropped as concepts that are brand new ways of thinking about things. Like we had that new gambling game last episode, or the episode beforehand. He finds out Omega's there, and so he immediately contacts his commander and says, well, hey, like, A, why are you calling me in? Why me? I don't want to do this.
Yeah.
And then he's like, well, the right thing to do is like call it in that the kid is here.
Yep.
But he uses sort of like efficient but unauthorized means. And again, this ties back to how we think tech functions, which is he does the math and he's like, well, they're probably going to survive because this is them.
That's what happens in the first season. They're like, why did you do that, tech? Why did you explode that thing? Oh, well, the likelihood of you being injured or dying, and that was only a 3.7%.
Yeah. And so he blows things up and attacks, and also like, takes the shots, when he does. And again, this new assassin especially ties into this predator motif that we always see in maiden characters. So their maidens are always hunted.
Yes.
Right.
But it's not like you see Predator taking a 12-second time to collect their things on their ship and put on their backpack just the right way. And I wrote this thing as I was watching the episode. I was like, you can teach a boy to forget who he is and try to kill those he loves and cares for, but you can't separate his love of his backpack.
You can't separate his love of his backpack.
Okay, so he's got it on and now he's a predator.
Yeah. So the key to sort of solving this psychological theme that is happening for Omega, because this is all from Omega's perspective, she's the one who's being hunted, is that the maiden character, to become a hero, has to trust their intuition and become a protector. That's the key to it. So we see this play out in TFA with Rey's story. She's a maiden. She's being hunted by Kylo Ren. And then at some point, she decides to take her on her own power and her own intuition, trust the Force, and she becomes a protector of Finn and those around her against the predator of Kylo Ren. This is such an interesting archetypical choice for this, because oftentimes the predator can be a version of a loved one. In Bluebeard, the young maiden marries Bluebeard, is married to Bluebeard, and so
and don't open that door over there.
Don't open that door over there. And the resolution is she decides to open the door because she trusts her intuition that this is actually a bad situation for her.
Finds all the other wives of Bluebeard.
Exactly. And so this is where the idea of murderous intent coming from somebody you trust the most is a pretty common motif within this too. That the person that you trust sometimes is the predator that you least expect. And so this ties into the symbolic idea that this could be tech, that being hunted and almost killed by somebody that you love is actually tying into this motif. Oftentimes when the maiden turns into a hero or a heroine, she is able to rescue the predator from themselves. So I'm excited.
I really am too. I want to give a shout out that the blacks in this episode, this season's been particularly dark, full of shadow at night. Lots of those components.
Yeah, it was a pretty dark episode. Yeah.
And yet another one, but yet they still managed to do such great jobs with the lighting and with making us understand still what's going on. This is not a TV show you can watch in broad daylight with a window behind you, though. You will lose a lot.
You'll lose the details.
This is one of those ones you watch in a darkened room with headphones on, because the
sound is so good.
All of the sound design is just so beautiful. It's rich. It's deep.
Do we know
so much going on?
Doing it?
It's the Kainers.
It's no. I'm
going to get to that later in the season for who's doing the sound effects and the sound design. But I wanted to talk today, especially about two roles, and I'll talk about the second one in the second episode because I think it's even more relevant.
Sure.
So first, how many characters did Dee Bradley Baker play in this episode? In this first episode? Oh my God,
20?
There weren't that many speaking parts.
10?
11.
Oh.
Don't forget Batcher.
No. Oh, yeah, right. He does Batcher too. Yes. Oh, yeah.
He played 11 characters in this episode.
I hope he's getting compensated by character.
That's not how that works. So sadly, that's not how that works.
By line?
But let's talk about one of the people whose names comes up really quick in the credits that you might not have known who it was. Joel Aaron was in the visual effects department for the blockbuster 1991 Hook. And then in the 1993 blockbuster movie Jurassic Park. And then went on to do visual effects for Star Trek Generations and Men in Black with ILM. And then a whole whack of technical director roles for massive blockbusters, including The Revenge of the Sith. He was the technical director for The Revenge of the Sith.
That's cool.
So Joel Aaron then moved into the animation group with Clone Wars.
He's had a long Lucasfilm ILM career.
But he is right now, for this series, the director of cinematography lighting. And while IMDb only shows the first season, I just think it's somebody hasn't bothered to put any of the other details in for season 2 and 3 because he's the guy for all of the episodes.
I read his tweets. on Twitter. Yeah.
There you go. Joel Aaron is the director of cinematography, lighting, and FX. So all of these blacks, all of the differentiation between darkness and light is being managed by him and his group in the technical department.
That's so cool.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they do an amazing job because it's hard. Like I think live TV has had a lot of problems with lighting and getting the mix right, but they're able to control it so much better in animation.
Lighting is one thing, right? And mix we'll get to in a second because that's almost something different. But this is all lighting related for the show. Where is the light coming from?
Right.
Where is the diffusion happening? And how do we show the proper textures of things by the way in which light plays on it? He's super important. It's no wonder that he's done these technical director roles, that he's moved into this where it's very practical, very like there's a physics involved in it, and it needs someone with this sort of technical experience that he has to bring to this to life. So as I always do, I creep them on LinkedIn afterwards, and I try to figure out where did this person come from and how did they get here. And it's a standard story of how they get put into the Lucasfilm pipeline and move up the chain and become a really big happy family. But man, I got to tell you, the people who talk about Lucasfilm and especially this group, they talk about how much respect in the workplace there is and how much everyone is a joy to work with. I mean, it's also LinkedIn, so everybody always says that. But it seems to be really true with this sort of tenure that these people have in these sorts of roles. It's really wild and interesting to see.
That's the impression that I've gotten whenever I've spoken with people from Lucasfilm.
And I just want listeners to know that Joel Aaron posted on LinkedIn a little message 2 weeks ago saying that Lucasfilm Animation is posting a bunch of mid-level animator opportunities to support the animation direction team to execute and deliver animated production for a new opportunity.
Ooh.
So they are currently hiring people.
They're working on something
for the next thing.
The next show.
What does that tell us? That tells me it's been conceived.
It's been written.
So it's been conceived. It's been pitched. It's been approved. And I would presume then
the finance manager is on it.
It's in the right? That it's now been approved, budget's being allocated for it.
Yeah.
They've realized we need to hire new people in the art department, right? The animation direction team is looking for animator opportunities.
Yeah.
So animators are now being brought in. That could be asset animation. There's lots of things that come as a result of that they are now looking for people to bring in and build the team for this next show that is coming.
Next show. Yes.
You always hire at the time, and you want that new blood. Like Filoni talked about that and how it's important when you start a new project to bring in new faces and new ideas. And so hopefully if you are a listener and you are in that animation group, you should get out there to LinkedIn and find the application, find the thing and go and apply.
Yeah. It's a great opportunity.
No better time than now.
Yeah, now is the time. Oh man, that makes me super excited. I really love speaking with people at Lucasfilm when I have the opportunity. And yeah, the impression that I get whenever I speak with the internal group is that they all have a lot of respect for each other, and it is a really good place to work.
And it's very open, and they're willing to talk about what they do and how they do it and how they got their start in it. This is not some sort of secret deep cover program where your identity is erased and you undergo conditioning, and the few that make it through come out different.
No, certainly not.
What is it called? The secret deep cover program.
Oh, is that what Hemlock named it?
Secret deep cover program.
He's the worst. He's not great.
He is the definition of a mad scientist.
I don't like him. It's fine.
No. He is literally Dr. Moreau.
He is Dr. Moreau because he's creating monkeys.
For clones.
For clones and pickled Snokes. I'm just going to bring that up until we get to see him on screen because I know it's going to happen. We have the strike force that was called in by CX2, which was Wolf. And
Lieutenant Hilo.
Oh, it's Lieutenant Hilo. Of course it is. But Wolf is there. And of course, Wolf is stylized after with his shoulder pauldron style after.
Why does Hilo get to have a glowing faceplate?
I don't
Nobody
know,
else?
but honestly, glowing eyes like that means you can't see crap out of them.
Right?
You can't see anything.
And he should be careful because if it's not UV protected, it could literally give him a sunburn on his eyelids.
Eyelids or his eyeballs. Right? It's very bad.
As has happened to a friend of ours.
A friend of ours that
friend of the show.
Used to be on the show regularly, Liam. But I wanted to call out Wolf specifically because another friend of the show / used to be on the show, James. He participates in the 501st and actually has a wolf pack cosplay. And of course, the animal that's on Wolf's shoulder is the wolf, and it's stylized after a drawing that Dave Filoni had done for a t-shirt for himself. And so
because that man loved the wolf.
It's his favorite animal.
He hungry like the wolf.
There is wolves in every one of his show, including this one, because now we have a wolf.
Yep.
A wolf of sorts.
Yep.
But that ends out the episode. It was a great way to end the episode. And I'm like, oh my God, this ties into Rebels so well. And I started chatting nonstop to you as we were waiting for the next episode to queue up. And you're like, Marie Claire, shh.
Save it for the thing.
Save it for the podcast.
I had no recollection of Wolf before this. I just was like, oh, that's a guy.
Oh, he has a really important role with the Rex come back and everything like that. And Rex and him have like a long history, and they're calling that out in this episode really well.
They really are. And the respect that the two have for each other, and the deference that Wolf will pay to Rex. Well, and how that changes in the future pays dividends here and now for us with this sort of prelude to it.
And Wolf is not like in the best shape. Later. Oh, was it Gregor? Because Gregor, Wolf, and Rex are all on the fishing trawler.
Yeah.
In Rebels.
That's who Echo was going to pick up. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Filoni and
so telling.
Jennifer Corbett. Jennifer Corbett, you fangirl.
There's an interview with Brad Rao, and they're talking about how Bad Batch is a really perfect time frame and time point for Star Wars because there's characters across so many different shows and properties and movies that they can now bring in for brief moments and segues and touch points. And Brad Rao said, we love doing it, but we have to be very careful in doing it because we don't want to just bring a character in
for the sake of
the shock value of it. We want to have a true story. And they realized that when they brought in Fennec Shand, they're like, oh my God, she's just taking over the whole story.
Right, she would. Yeah.
So we're like, we have to be careful when introducing these characters because they will take our plot and they're like, no, I don't care about that. I'm my character of my own in the Star Wars universe and I'm going over here. And suddenly the whole story is following them there.
That's literally what happened with Luke coming into Mandalorian. It like reached Luke, and like you have to be so cognizant of that power, and I'm so happy that they're talking about it. And I hope that other creators have to listen to them talk about this.
I mean, because anybody who's a writer realizes that as soon as you introduce a character, and if you make that character a point of view character, that character is going to take your story in new places that you didn't intend. Characters have lives and minds of their own.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're just oftentimes the unwitting, ink dripper that's spilling it out for them.
You're just the font of the inspiration of the universe. Do you want to talk about new animation show and speculation on that?
Heck yes. Let's do that when this one's done.
At the end of this show?
Yeah.
Episode or series?
At the end of this series. Okay, we can speculate.
Let's speculate because I feel like they...
Or you want to talk about what we talked about between the two episodes, that other component that I said?
No, I don't want to talk about that yet because I want to see what this show ends up doing.
Me too.
Yeah. But I do think it's important to think in mind there will be a show. They are pipelining it.
Yeah, they didn't build this vehicle to end with Bad Batch and then send everyone home.
And especially like the animation techniques that they've been building and because literally all the assets are in the library. And if they keep the animation style pretty close to that, they can use all of the assets again. And that's like saving the set. It's like what Star Trek the original series did by reusing sets and going to the Wild West all the time. They get to go and reuse all the sets and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's something that's connected to this universe. I have hopes on what it might be.
I do too. And this episode, this extraction, wants to tell you that there is hope. It opens with this beautiful purple sky, this purple sunset. And
wait,
sunsets.
Red sky in the morning, sailor take warning, though.
Red sky at night, sailor delight. However, purple sunsets are not a good thing. It seems like it should be a good thing. This beautiful purple sunset as the sun is setting and night is coming. This glorious it is. I just love it. There's so many great wide shots in this episode at the beginning and end that is just amazing. But this purple sunset is not a good thing. It is a harbinger of terrible things to come. Usually a purple sunset indicates that a great many people have died recently, or that death is close.
No.
Yes. Purple sunset says death is close, or...
I guess we have to pay attention to what ends up happening to Rex and why he is hiding out on a fishing boat. Fishing ATST?
Or that a storm is coming.
Yeah.
So a storm is coming, a lot of people have died, or death is close. That is the metaphor of a purple sunset.
So it is sort of like the red sky at night.
Sailor's delight. Oh, wait, hold on.
Yeah, but no,
red sky morning,
purple.
sailor take warning, right? Yeah. There was another, I was trying to read this, but then I was running out of time because, we needed to get this, come down here and record. And I was reading an article about in Japan, where if you see a purple sunset, that it is a warning of a tsunami to come, because the way the light is bouncing off of this forthcoming wave is generating that purple light. And so it's like, get the heck out, something terrible is coming. And that's also what's being evoked here. We think, this beautiful vista, this beautiful display, this gorgeous coloring.
The bad guy is there, and also it opens on things burning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But so we've gotten that purple lead in to this episode while the sun sets and night descends, and of course chaos ensues.
Right. Hauser and Crosshair kind of start to work through what happened on Ryloth and all of the different things throughout this episode, and it's kind of like an ongoing conversation in between things.
Yes, it's beautiful. I see the way you are with her is such a great line. I feel like it's been said in other shows about taciturn, gruff father figures.
Yeah.
Where you recognize, he's not the bad guy that society makes him out to be.
Yeah, it's really interesting because Hunter has ended up taking a back seat to Crosshair in the dad department for this season so far, which I don't think is a bad thing. I think, the divine child ends up kind of being lovingly attached to the most taciturn and broken of the individuals. From a story perspective, it's quite a common thing that happens.
Well, they went from my 4 dads to my 3 dads to my 3 dads.
Yeah.
Right? So now we're back to my 3 dads.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, Hunter is the Tom Selleck of the dads, because he's the, straight-laced one. He's the leader. He doesn't have as much of a story as the screw-up dads have.
Exactly. And I love the spire in this episode and sort of what it represents, which, as they dig into it to go and escape, they go down, down, and down, and down, and spiral down, and they're kind of dealing with the assassins, and Crosshair can't be precise with shooting at the assassin, and so he uses like a detonation like little thing. He's like, I don't need to be accurate if I just blow up the whole thing, right? which is
it harkens back to that first season when he threw those mirrors around the spiral staircase and then shot and it went all the way up and killed that guy.
Yeah. And I love the lighting in these moments with like them spotting the stormtroopers and the clone troopers down below looking, and you can see the lights coming through the windows. And
it's not Hunter that spots that.
Yeah,
it's Crosshair who has that feeling of something going on.
Mm-hmm. And we definitely get the conflict with Wolf and CX2 with like them escaping through the shuttle, little like kind of hidden shuttle, which is
it's
really
called
cool.
a leech craft.
Oh.
LEECH leech craft that they've hidden. I don't know why. It's just like a little island hopper sort of thing that you take. It doesn't have doesn't have a hyperdrive in it. It just kind of helps them bomb around when they need to go away from the Spire for a short vacay.
Yeah, or pick up something on planet locally or something. Yeah.
Exactly. And this is really interesting that it's called a leech vessel because a leech, LEECH, is relevant in sailing. And leech is the term for either side of a symmetrical sail. And oftentimes the leech side is the side that's not, like the wind is blowing through. So it's not the forward facing part. It's the one that kind of flutters. It basically leaches the wind off of it for them to tact into it. So it's called a leech vessel. And it's the tailing part of it.
Interesting.
Isn't that? And like they took some time and thought to give this vessel a name to shoot it down immediately. And yeah, so he shoots them down and it's like, I prevented the shuttle's escape, which we already talked about, and how it is absolutely a tech-like thing to say without I shot it down because preventing it from escape because I knew that they wouldn't get harmed because there was only a 0.5% chance that they would actually sustain injuries, and knowing these idiots like I do, they would prevent her from getting injured most importantly, and all blah blah blah, like rattling off his reasons. Yeah, but I know story-wise, the only reason why they went into that leech vessel to fly up and to get shot down, not just to show another descent that's happening in this episode, but because, and this is important, we need to show that Omega has learned something from all of her dads. And Omega learned in this shot the value of the backpack.
The value of the backpack, yes.
Because she puts all those smoke grenades, the smoke canisters, into her backpack.
So the backpack is the key to this whole situation. That's what you're telling me.
Yes.
And then we get the excellent scene when they're like getting out of the shuttle. Got your crossbow? Well, stay close. You're as bad as Hunter. Oh, I'm much worse. Yeah, okay, Dad. Like
I literally wrote those lines down too. You good? Got your crossbow? Yeah. Can you carry those supplies?
Yeah, exactly.
I've got my backpack.
And really, like, this is a big sign psychologically of the growth of Crosshair's inner anima, which is represented in the growing love and care for Omega. And even Hauser is like, okay, this is a different dude.
Right. And asks him about it.
Yeah. And like, this is important because Omega represents the transformation in all of the clones, wanting to be free, wanting to have love, wanting to have lives. And that's what I was trying to talk about in the beginning of the episode about the Divine Child and what they represent to symbolically in a story like this. They set out into the jungles and it's covered in mist, which of course has the meaning that we don't quite understand everything that is happening. We don't quite see all the reasons why things are happening. And CX2 specifically separates out from Wolf and the group and is coming at them from his own angle because they can't see that he is coming at them from his own angle. And yet is great.
At the time where they now physically can't see anything and the mists are all about them, that's when Hauser finally sees the change in Crosshair.
Yeah, no, that's
so
great.
So once again, this juxtaposition of even if you can't see what's around you, you can still see the change in others. You can still see the good in them. And that comes through. And that's a really important through line as Hauser pushes this and talks to him about it and says like, why, how did you know that guy? Well, I was put through the program, but I am defective
Right.
Like he says it like it's a badge on his chest because he knows that he is different. He is unique. He is special. And that elevated him and gave him motivation, and also it allowed him to maintain that level of anger, Hulk-like anger that he'd always had to push him through to the end goal, the end result, the sniper thing of I need to take out my target because I can and because this is what I'm directed to do.
But I also think that he's now being affected by the opening of the love that he has for Omega specifically and for himself, in that he is now not the murderous angry person he was, and that's why he's shaky and he doesn't want to kill people. He doesn't want to hurt them, I don't think. And so this is such a beautifully anti-patriarchal story in that it's a rejection of violence for love, and it's wild that we're getting it in like this like kind of war vet piece, which is great.
And also recognizing that to the Empire, he's disposable.
Yes.
Even though he's unique and special.
Yes.
He's still disposable.
Because he doesn't do what they want him to do, which is the violent acts. Yeah.
And at no point to Omega and to Hunter and to Wrecker is Crosshair disposable.
Yeah.
He is necessary. Like when he rushes up to be the last to get on the ship, and he says,
"They wait." Yeah,
and he's like, "Why aren't you leaving? We're waiting for you."
Yeah,
right. We're waiting for you. The Empire wouldn't have done that. No, the Empire would have left without him.
Yeah, really important stuff there. I love it so much. So CX2 approaches Crosshair, and they're in the waterfall. And I described.
He's limping now. He's all beat up.
Yeah, he's all beat up. I described this scene as the Wakanda fight in Black Panther, the like Wakanda King fight, and of course this is important symbolically because when you have a fight in water, it's because you share a birth origin. That's like the whole point of the fight in the water in the Wakanda fight for Black Panther, is that they have a shared
water birth.
No. They're cousins, right? Yeah. They have a shared origin, and it ends up being kind of a mirrored fight, dark twin versus light twin kind of situation. And that's
Who
another.
Would have thought that Crosshair would be the light twin,
right? There we are. But we have this played out exactly like that in the mirrored idea. Like, so they're twins fighting. And so who are the twins that we have in the Bad Batch? Well, we have the emotion rage monster of Crosshair, who seemed emotionless, and we have the emotionally vacant but very passionate Tech. And so this symbolically makes so much sense if this is Tech, and makes zero sense if it is not.
And also, furthermore, it's just piling up reasons why this is Tech.
Yeah,
just piling them up.
And then the line that he said, "You had the chance to be one of us and you chose the wrong side," is like a proposal of sorts, very Star Wars-ian.
Yeah. What CX2 says to Crosshair.
Yeah, and it's framed as an anti-Crosshair moment, so it's like the dark version of yourself, the shadow, the shadow clone. And so who is the dark version of Crosshair? Yeah. It's
Obi-Wan yelling at Anakin as he burns to death.
Exactly. Like, this is so common as a motif in Star Wars, the twin idea or the brother idea. And then we, of course, have the fight resolve with CX2 drowning.
With death.
Drowning Crosshair. Yeah. Essentially, he dies.
I wrote he died.
He is reborn in this moment, but then through the, saving him from his brother saving him and what is happening, CX2 goes over the waterfall.
Right. Who saves him?
I thought it was Hunter.
It's Hauser.
Oh, that's
Hauser's
great.
The one who rushes out there. So I wasn't clear. I didn't realize. I had to literally Google 2 teal stripes clone trooper, and boof, Hauser pops up immediately. I was like, oh, that makes so much sense.
No, it's great. It's great because he was redeemed and thus saved by Hauser. That's great. I didn't recognize that it was.
As I said at the top of this, Hauser pushes the whole plot and all of the emotion of this episode the whole way through. It has to be Hauser.
It's great. It's great. But then we have CX2 fall off the waterfall.
Yes.
A sad But of course, that is a death.
Yeah.
And we will see a rebirth in a moment. But okay, if this was just a schmo,
right,
that we didn't know.
Yeah. Well, we're not done yet because now we've got the one of the
but
most
if it was
cool moments in the show.
schmo, we would never see this gentleman again.
Right. Yeah. And we see him
this
fall.
would be where it would be end. This is the end.
But the end isn't there, right? He falls and we go and we have the conflict with Wolf and everybody, this beautiful pan back. Did you see the pan back shot?
Oh, it was
Waterfall in the background. Both ships. Conflict in amongst. Can these men who are brothers on opposite sides recognize family comes first?
Right. And so like it's like Rex, and then he's like, yeah, no, I didn't die. It's like, I wanted to write down rumors of my death have been greatly exaggerated. Yeah. And they have this discussion about like the Empire and what is happening. And of course, the killer line of you're hunting a child. And this brings about to, what I've talked about thematically about the child being the representation of this curse. The death of all of them is what the Empire leads them to. This is the clone curse, is like the House of Atreus curse.
Yeah.
Consumption of these boys who have been raised to die.
Yeah.
And so Omega, representing that solidly from a divine child perspective, is called out by Rex. Wolf lets them go. But they're traitors, Hilo says.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, but they're clones.
Hilo sees the light. He only sees the light.
Yeah, but they're clones.
That's not actually what Hilo's talking about. That's not, they let them go. Hilo seems to get that. Wolf then says, go and collect the fallen.
Oh.
But they're traitors.
Oh,
that's what that's about.
That's so cool. Because that's like the honor among soldiers and our brothers, right? Yeah.
Recover their fallen. They're traitors, but they're clones. We owe them that.
Absolutely. And then we cut to the bottom of the waterfall, the pool.
Yes.
And we have the assassin crawl out.
Techspiracy.
This
is the pinnacle of that. This is the capstone that locks this whole thing in place, that tells us this guy
is tech.
This guy is so important. We've built 2 entire episodes out of a 15 episode arc.
To introduce him as the Winter Soldier version of himself.
Yes.
But he'll come back and he'll be in the next couple of episodes, probably hunting them.
Yes.
Right? Which is
Crosshair second season.
Yeah, it is. And of course, Crosshair is going to play a really important role in bringing Tech back because of how they framed them as sort of like twins in this.
But this is what's great, is that it was Crosshair's choice.
Right.
This is not Tech's choice.
Yeah.
I think that this is what we all thought we were getting in season 1, was he's been brainwashed. We need to break him out. We need to take the chip out and he'll be fine. And then they're like, the chip wasn't even important.
It wasn't the chip. Yeah.
And for Tech, he has been corrupted and he needs to be decompiled.
So do you think he has a robot arm?
A new iOS update needs to be done.
Yeah. Do you think he's got a robot arm?
I don't think so. Why?
Oh, just because he keeps on banging on like the little thing.
It was the explosion that damaged his armor, and he fixed his armor, and that's why his arm was working after that. And then the other thing,
like the very Winter Soldier thing when he like puts his arm back into place and stuff. I was like, oh, it's
and then the other explosion that knocks him falling and whatnot. Then he's limping around, and his hip and his leg are hurting. So what's great is that physicality that we get from this animated character show. Yeah, he got blown up.
He got blown up a couple of times.
Twice.
And Rex finally seeing the light, like, maybe we shouldn't put this kid into danger, but we should probably figure out what's going on with the kid. Right. Like, it's interesting that Rex kind of indicates he knows what M count is in that first episode.
Yep.
Or in the, but it definitely feels like he's like, you need to figure this out because this is really important to all of their plans. And also, like, Omega's really important to all of us, obviously. And so this is like, the reason the divine child is the divine child is the reason, is the elixir for the clones.
Right.
Right.
And the future.
And the future. And the elixir is the thing that you bring back to the community to transform the community. You bring the secret back to the community. And so finding out why Omega is special and what she represents symbolically in the story is the key to saving the clones and rescuing them from the curse.
Yeah, and also to show that each generation is better than the last and more and important to bring them up so that we are always building upon and building out.
And you can't destroy your future. That's always what the divine child represents. You need to protect your future.
So I have 3 things related to the show left and an individual I want to talk about.
Okay.
What would you like to do first? I've got something I'm not happy about. I've got death count.
Oh.
And then I've got an individual.
Let's get over this something you're not happy about.
Okay, so 3 things irritate me not like a ton in this episode. 1, how did Batcher get down that ladder?
Wrecker put him on his back like Gonky.
It was not big enough for that. And I was just like...
He jumped.
You know what? You really pissed me off, TV show, by putting a ladder with a dog there and then making me try to think about the dog going down the ladder. And this is not Scooby-Doo, so I'm having a real trouble.
No, he jumped. He's fine. He's fine. He's a supernatural dog that is... he's a supernatural dog. It's fine.
Also, Crosshair has his gun knocked away from him. Mm-hmm. And then they fisticuff fight, and the other guy, the CX2's gun is knocked from him. So they have to fight themselves, but then they both go over that first waterfall and they're scrounging around. Then the Wakandan fight happens and he pulls the vibro knife. They have the fight. But recall, both guns are higher up on the waterfall. Okay, then they're about to fall off the big waterfall, and that's when he gets saved. When he gets pulled up, Wrecker is standing there with the helmet for Crosshair. His helmet got knocked off. Yeah. Of course it had to get knocked off. We have to see our light warrior revealed and also made vulnerable while the other helmet does not come off. You have to demask.
It's important.
If you're going to get into a fight with somebody in hockey, take their helmet off as soon as you can or you'll break your fist.
Punch them in the head,
Exactly. Okay. Crosshair doesn't do that. But I was certain that the loss of the rifle, then they go over the waterfall. This is a turning point for Crosshair. He doesn't get his rifle back. I was certain.
They gave his rifle back?
But for some reason, Wrecker, the helmet's right there. I understood. Wrecker sees the helmet as he walks up. He's been saved, gives his friend his helmet back, his identity. Right? That's where he gets to put all of his individuality on it. Yeah. Like they literally have to wear their individuality on their armor because everyone looks the same.
It's a representation of like the ego, right?
But then he also gives him the rifle.
Right.
He literally hands him his rifle as well.
His persona. Yeah, no. But this is like your persona. He's not ready to give it up yet. It's fine.
But it's a perfect moment. I mean,
it was a good moment. You're right.
I think they could have spent 30 seconds.
30 seconds.
He could have given him his helmet, and Crosshair says, "My rifle," and Wrecker says, "I didn't see it anywhere." Like, give us that. I'm going to bet you we have 8 episodes left. I don't know as to whether or not Crosshair is going to need a rifle going forward.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't need one after this moment, that was why. Is that because he gave up the rifle in that fight when he went over the waterfall?
Okay, I love that.
Okay,
but I don't think I'm mad about it as much as you are.
I was disappointed because once again, I was taken out of that plausible deniability or that suspension of disbelief because the rifle was so far apart from the helmet, and we were never really given the idea that they followed them down the same path. Right? They didn't go over the waterfall.
Suspension of disbelief.
Okay, the third one, and I don't say this often, but that water from the river. The whole splashing from the river component, the first part there, was so bad.
Oh.
It is not good river. It is not good water. It doesn't make any sense. And also the sound effect is basically just a wash of white noise. It doesn't have any sort of depth to it. It is a single sound and it's single set animation. And I really felt like it is the only thing I've seen phoned in out of everything we've seen.
In like 3 seasons.
Across everything.
I didn't notice, so that's how much they were like, we're saving on some budget.
I think so. It's all, but I mean, I can recognize how hard that is because it's water. It's a river at night.
Water's never been easy for them to animate in this style. Like you think about the Clone Wars, anytime they've had a liquid, it's like, oh God, this is a nightmare.
But that waterfall
Yeah.
Gorgeous. Every single iteration of the waterfall is beautiful. The water just does amazing things. The water. And the fight in the water, great. But there's these moments before that with the river, and it's just not a river. It looks like, I don't, shaving foam in a digital animated form.
Go back and watch the Clone Wars anytime they've had to deal with any liquid.
Yeah. Can we make this ice? Yeah, I totally get that.
I mean, anytime they've had like liquid poured from anything, they're like, could we not do this? It feels drier in the Clone Wars just because of that, because they have way more moisture in the Bad Batch seasons.
And so this is also where the big fight happens, and the river is there too. So let's move on to death count.
Death count.
All right. So this is a pretty violent episode.
There's a lot of people dying.
How many stormtroopers do you think die?
Oh, how many showed up? There was like 20 that showed up. So I'm going to say 10?
No, it's 5.
Oh.
5. And it's 2.
I'm overestimating a lot.
A lot of them get stunned.
Oh, yeah, I know. They've been using stuns a lot in this series.
And I know that our group of heroes with Rex and whatnot, that there were others that died, other clone troopers that died. We didn't get to see that happen. Much of that happened off camera. If it did, it was not component to this. People we saw die, 5 stormtroopers. 1 piloting the ship, and he gets shot through the chest.
What about CX-1?
Then 2 guys... Yeah, it's part of this. Then 2 guys fall out of the ship.
Right. And we got the Wilhelm scream.
A double Wilhelm scream. Yeah. I count those 2 as dead. They did fall from a very high height.
Yeah, I think that's fair, yeah.
Yeah, and then 3 others get shot by Crosshair and CX-2 in the conflict. However... CX-1 is one of those as well. So there's 6 that die, 5 stormtroopers, CX-1, and 1 clone trooper dies.
No.
And they make a point once again, as the stormtrooper is pushing the other person out of the way and gets shot, right? Because CX-2 is about to shoot, and Namek is his name, shoves him out of the way, and they cry out as he gets shot, Namek, to tell us, these are not faceless people. This is guerrilla warfare. This is the cost of this type of fight.
This type of fight, yeah. Oh my gosh. And also, like, it was dehumanized in the Clone Wars cartoon.
Right.
And now they're humanizing it again to say there is still a cost to war, and like you're dealing with that.
You cannot watch The Bad Batch and then go back and watch Clone Wars. It would be devastating to see all of these people, these people with personalities and characters and names and brief but short lives die in mass numbers.
I always struggled with it in general, but
it's not so much in like the movie in the first season, right? And then they start telling us, the Clone Wars movie, the cartoon movie, and then the first season, like it's not as it's like these are clone troopers.
Well, especially like the Umburo arc where there's like the betrayal and like all those clone deaths. But
then as soon as they introduce us to Fives and his group, the writing's on the wall. You can't do that anymore. These people matter to people. And these clones, each and every single one of them have a name, and each and every single one of them matter at this point.
It's such an important, interesting change in the story. I love Star Wars.
So, once again, we're at a point where let's talk about somebody at Star Wars. Let's talk about the colorist.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
You want to talk about the purple sunset, and you want to talk about the beautiful colors of the Bad Batch and whatnot. It is remarkable what the colorist does. What do you think the colorist does for a show?
I don't know.
They are not the person.
They take Crayolas and
they're not like in comics where they color everything.
Yeah.
But in some capacity, they kind of are. It's really, really interesting. I had to look it up at this really cool website. So the person who is the colorist for the Bad Batch is Sean Wells. He has been the colorist for Lucasfilm since 2010.
What?
Yes, almost 15 years.
That's pre-acquisition.
Yes.
Wow.
I know. But again, while he's been the colorist for all of Bad Batch, once again, only one season is showing up. The first season is showing up on IMDb. It's like somebody went out and deliberately did first season really, really well, but then they moved on with other things in their life, had kids or got a new job. They didn't do season 2 and 3. So hopefully somebody out there will once again drop all of those things into IMDb appropriately, because he's the colorist. He's the guy who's been doing all of this. The colorist is such an important job. There is a junior colorist.
Oh.
Yes. So Jay Tan is the colorist junior, the junior colorist who's learning how to color.
That makes it feel very kindergarten.
So if you go to a website called coloristsociety.com, there's some great articles on what it means and what you do to become a colorist.
Yeah.
Okay. The colorist works directly with the director of photography, the director, the virtual FX and production operatives to generate efficient communication and a common color language.
I love it. So it's more like color theory made real.
But also like, hey, don't forget that Hunter's bandana is red. Well, you can't say that. There are so many shades of red.
Hunter's bandana is this specific color of red.
And so they create the language, and then they ensure that language is maintained when it comes to the color of the show. Colorists are specialists in color design and the manipulation of motion pictures in post-production. They have up-to-date knowledge in the fields of creative and technical image manipulation and a sense for color trends and styles, both current and historic. They enable a consistent creative outlook for the whole project. So you know how much our dear friend Jeremy hates shows that are teal
and orange filtered. Yeah.
That's because a colorist has done that, the lens washing there.
Creates anxiety.
And so for this show, we have a colorist. Not only do they ensure a common language of color in the show, but when it is a purple sunset, they're the ones who are making sure it is that particular shade of purple fading into this other shade of purple. And then that is maintained in consistent, cohesive connection, which is relevant and important because multiple people are working on scenes.
Right.
Like I might be working on this scene from this camera angle, whereas my buddy 2 cubicles down, or 2 houses down, and they're probably working from home. He is working on that from a different camera angle, and we need to make sure that we're using the same colors in the animation
That's so
component.
cool.
And that's what the colorist does, is they once again oversee the big picture and ensure that the final product matches what the intended emotionality and why they work so closely with the directors. And he's been doing it since 2010.
That's awesome.
And the really, really cool thing about Sean Wells is that he also has this really cool website called Roast and Post. It is a company and like a building and a space where they brew and they roast coffee, but then they also co-work, and they have like, social meetings and get-togethers where you post and you talk about your pitched ideas and what you're working on and whatnot. And there's a collective group there that is also involved in the iteration of it and to mentor and to help develop and design and build. And so there's like workshops that they do and social gatherings that they have where they all drink their fancy coffees, their fancy roast, and then they post about the stuff that they're doing. And it's all from a technical perspective, like from the colorist and executive producer side of things. So he is one of the main proprietors of Roast and Post. I highly recommend, if you're interested in this sort of stuff, to check out coloristsociety.com. And if you want to know more, check out, it's such a cool website, Roast and Post. Roast, the letter N, post.com.
That's so neat.
That's literally what Sean Wells is up to, the colorist for this show.
Amazing. Well, thank you for all of that. That's super interesting.
Isn't it neat? The different sort of things you can do with your life.
Yeah. It definitely gives you options. You're like, I never thought that this thing existed, but I love that you shine a light onto the production side.
Well, they're the ones doing all the hard work.
Yeah, so we just get to chat about it.
Yeah.
And talk about it. Yeah. Well, as you said, we're halfway done the season. Well,
Not quite 10 minutes into halfway. We got 10 minutes left and then we're definitely halfway.
Like halfway into 8. Yeah, because that would be, halfway into 8 will be half done the season. So next week.
If we look at it this way, we have a movie left. We have 8 20-minute episodes left. We have about a movie worth of story left.
Yes. Yeah. And I think that like it's spread out pretty well until May, like in May, right? When it ends. But I'm really excited for the rest of the season. It's like when this show started, I was like, this is what they're doing. And they're executing it in such a beautiful way.
Yeah.
Even though I knew the story they were telling because I know Star Wars so well. And I know what the most important story to tell would be from the Bad Batch. And they're telling it, which is beautiful. I think it's going to be a testament to the power of the animation group at Lucasfilm.
It'll be interesting to finish this and then go back and watch things like Band of Brothers and Saving Private Ryan and other things that I know were one of the ways in which this was developed and thematically built and structured. And how do you show this guerrilla warfare transition from a position of like this is the authority we work for, and
power to rebellion kind of idea. Yeah, it's a different way to go about that. I'm excited. Well, thank you, Kyle, for joining me again.
It was so easy to get into this podcast. I literally just followed you down to the basement.
That's where we record. Yes. Well, everyone, thank you for listening, and we will be back next week with a new episode.
Let's hope. If it's if we have the time and it's good enough, I think we'll sit down and talk about it. But it's nice when it's a double or we've got a greater story than just a 20-minute.
Yeah, the 2 episodes have been kind of what we've been leaning into. So if it's not next week, we'll double it up the week after.
But you'll definitely hear us all too soon.
Soon enough. Cheers.
Thank you for listening to What the Force. I'm Marie-Claire Gould, your host. Our music is orchestral music by Christy Carew for What the Force. You can support the show directly on Patreon at patreon.com/whattheforce. We'd like to thank all our patrons, especially those who love and are obsessed with What the Force. John, In Wild Space, How Rude, Anna Perez, Neil, Christian Luca, Carly Ann, Scott C., and Susan. Support the show by wearing the Force with our merch. Like and subscribe on YouTube or leave a 5-star review on iTunes or other pod apps. It helps others find the show. Connect with us on Twitter at WT4 Show, What the Force Podcast on Facebook. Our website is whattheforce.ca, or the Discord link is in the liner notes. Feel free to reach out and start a conversation. Cheers.